Friday morning. It's been a very rainy night in Macau. Somewhat nice, it's cleared the air a little bit, feels a little bit less polluted, somewhat humid. Up here in one of the Taipa parks, wonderful walk of about a mile round the cliff, as it were. Posting further updates on Julian Assange and the forces of law and order, our cousins over the water in the US. Federal prosecutors, behest of William Barr, the Attorney General, have filed 17 charges under the Espionage Act, as I was discussing the other day. Thought that was a high probability, which turns out it is, totaling possible 175 years in a Supermax American prison, a deep dark hole where they can drop him in and never hear a word from him for the next 175 years. Wonderful. You don't need a death sentence when you've got 175 years. It's a living death sentence. And these charges, I'm assuming, may be added to that of the computer hacking charges in the extradition hearings at Westminster Magistrates Court on the 30th of May. Please join myself and many others protesting against these proceedings and against the biased judiciary who have continued to pursue this matter, ignoring Julian's human rights and ignoring the freedom of the press to publish secrets of our government, to inform the public what they're really up to. That's the point of it. And this morning I was reading the Guardian with the New York correspondent, who laid out the very good factual presentation, and not forgetting to include some of the prosecutor's allegations in parentheses, so as not to be a pure stenographer to those in power and the corporate elite media that he semi-works for. Ending the article with a very brief statement about Julian's status and saying that he, having fled to the Ecuadorian embassy, is now incarcerated for 50 weeks at the behest of Judge Taylor at the Southwark Crown Court. No mention at all of her ignorance and refusal to take into account the defence's half-hour submission about why Julian felt he had to fail to surrender to the bail conditions under fear of extradition. And that argument, by the way, and let's be very, very clear about this, that argument has been absolutely vindicated by the facts. And the fact is that if it weren't for the US extradition request, the Mr. Assange more than likely would be free at this moment. Now, they failed to mention in this Guardian article from their most esteemed New York correspondent, who I won't name because I don't really want to identify him and his helpers in New York and give them the oxygen of publicity. But you can read the Guardian article yourself. It's up there online. One credit to the Guardian is they don't have a paywall, so anyone can read it. Failing to mention District Judge Snow, who's most likely will be sitting in on the extradition hearings on the 30th, despite really leaving it to a district judge who I imagine professes some expertise on the extradition requests, is like asking a bus driver to fly a Boeing 737. Now, these important constitution issues and the fact that we have a judge who slurred Julian Assange on the bail hearing where he passed judgment and found him guilty of failure to surrender, called Julian Assange a narcissist, a man only concerned with his self-interest. Yes, seems somewhat a description of maybe the judge himself. And let's be very clear about the